Really appreciate you coming along to see and have a chat with us. So I just wanted to explain a little bit about what we're doing here on this stage in this enormous room today. So my name is Mary Youngs. I ran the Salesforce practice at a company called Cloud Sherpas. So I've been doing Salesforce and Salesforce consultancy for about 4 years. I was walking in January, in the cold and wet in January into work and thinking that, hey, this is the time of the year where everybody thinks about what do I want to do next? Why am I coming into work? Why is it so great? Can I move to Australia? And, what's the future? What am I going to set myself as goals this year? What am I going to do that makes it a year that's different from the year before? Also, it's that time of year, I don't know about you and where you work, but often there's annual reviews coming around and people are thinking about their reviews and all of that stuff as well. And I was like, well, if it's anything like me, this is a fork in the road. What do you want to do next? And this was about the time that Jodie and Kerry and all the fantastic people were spinning up London's Calling. I gave Simon a ring, Simon, who's one of the folks who's organising this, and said, I've had this idea that maybe this is a good point in the year to talk a little bit about Salesforce careers and share experiences and think about what kind of job roles there are and what's happening in the career market over time. However, this was 3 weeks ago, and I was like, so you're probably really busy, you've got all of your slots taken up, and I have no idea if this is a good idea or not, so I'm expecting you to say no. In fact, I'd rather if you said no. And he said, maybe that is an interesting idea, maybe we should give it a go. So he said, let's give it a go. So this is very much, let's see what it feels like to talk about Salesforce careers from all different angles. The folks we've got here today are mostly coming from a background of implementing Salesforce, but I know that in the room there'll be a bunch of people who work in all sorts of aspects, from recruitment to marketing products to developing their ISVs. So today we're going to keep it quite broad. If it is useful, if it is something we want to do again, I'd love to get your feedback. I'd love to get your feedback whether we want to talk about specific angles of careers or specific angles of routes and jobs. But that's only if this actually goes forward. The next thing to say is that it would be lovely if this was interactive. This is really just about talking about how people are thinking and looking at what they want out of their future career, particularly with Salesforce. So we've got some folks here who have got some perspectives on that and are happy to share what's happened in their lives. But do interact. We'll do Q&A at the end, but I'd much, much rather it if we're talking about something that's interesting to you, or you've got a question as we're going through, do just wave, and we'll try and manage the technology to do that. The last thing to say is when I did talk about this with Simon, I was like, yeah, it might just be the 5 of us having a little chat and a cup of tea on stage, so please put us in a cupboard. He didn't put us in a cupboard, he put us in this room, which is frankly terrifying, if I'm honest. So if you are wanting to talk, if you could move a little bit forward, that might make it a little easier for us to come and have a chat, but or come and wave if you do want to have a chat if I can't hear you at the back. So logistics aside, I will introduce my lovely panel who have been co-opted in the last 2 weeks to come and share some of their thoughts and views. So you can see us on stage. This is the there and some Twitter stuff like that. But if we could just kick off, maybe you guys could introduce yourself. Luke, do you want to start, mate?
I'll start. Yeah, you can hear me. Excellent. So I'm Luke Emberton. I'm Director of Technology at Cloud Sherpas. I typically play the role of Technical Architect. I'm also a Salesforce Certified Technical Architect. So I'm going to be talking a bit around what it takes to be a technical architect on a project and what the career path is to get there. A bit about myself. I've been working in consulting around 12 years, mainly in the CRM space. Started with Siebel, done a bit of Microsoft Dynamics, but now I'm primarily focused on the Salesforce. So that's me. I'll pass over to Anoop.
Hello, I'm Anoop Jadhav. I'm one of the founders of Empower Limited. Empower is a Salesforce startup consultancy. I also moonlight as a technical architect at Empower. My background is I've been a consultant all my life, I think. So I've been a consultant for, again, I think close to 12 years now. I've worked at Cloud Sherpas, Tequila, done a bit of contracting. I'm also Salesforce MVP, and I run the Salesforce Developer User Group.
Hello, my name's Rich Law. I'm a senior consultant at Cloud Sherpas. I've been working with CRM in one way or another for about 10 years now. I started out supporting a Siebel system for a software company about 10 years ago, straight out of university. About 5 years ago, I made the leap to consulting and to Salesforce when I joined a sort of quite small startup consultancy that was specializing in working with charities and non-profits. And I joined Cloud Sherpas about 2 years ago, and I've been working in a variety of sort of functional, technical, solution architecture type of roles on quite a wide variety of projects.
Hi, I'm Alex. So I got into Salesforce completely by mistake. It's quite early in my career. The little financial services company I was working for got acquired by Western Union, which is an enormous money transfer company. And during that process, a job came up for the newly formed Salesforce team, which was 2 people, so 1 person and this role. And I applied for it and somehow got it, even though I didn't know what Salesforce was. And so then spent the next 4 years working on that team and learning Salesforce on the job and helping them roll out their Sales Cloud, which was it was a fun process. And now I'm yet another consultant at Cloud Sherpas.
Yeah, so we've tried to assemble some folks here that have different backgrounds in terms of working with end users and charity and third sector. Because of the timelines, they are folks that work with me, so we'll end up with a more diverse panel if we do this the next time around. But the guys have got different backgrounds working with different clients and also through the different sectors as well. So Alex, you did kick that off with, I just wanted to ask, how did people end up working with Salesforce, and has working with Salesforce actually impacted your career in a different way to maybe the other roles you've had before? Someone want to kick off? Go on, Anoop.
So the way my story, the way I started with Salesforce was I was a Java developer a long time ago. Yes. It feels like a long time ago. I was a Java developer. 2007, I started working for a small billing company in Reading. They were using Salesforce, a small CRM system called Salesforce back then. And I think it was around that time, 2006, 2007, Salesforce launched Apex. Because before that, I don't know how many of you remember S controls. So they were implementing S controls. I looked at that and I said, ugh, I don't want to use Salesforce. But then they launched Apex and Visualforce, and that just blew my mind. And I could see the potential for the Salesforce platform. So I went on a course. They sent me on the first Dev 401 course in the UK. I went to that course because Apex is syntactically and semantically similar to Java. It was very easy to pick up Apex, and I was like, okay, let's do this. And that was the start of my Salesforce journey. After that company, it's been one consultancy after another, and now I'm here as one of the founders of Empower, and we're doing Salesforce for startups. So that's my journey.
Did a lot of people learn Java and come across? Is that something? John's nodding. It's quite a big path west as well. Yeah, so that's quite a common route in. So
what I've seen is if you have experience in object-oriented programming background, then it's very easy to pick up Java, Apex, and Visualforce.
Yeah. Do you think Java's an important skill to learn if you want to come into the Salesforce ecosystem in a developer role? Do you need to start there, or do you think you don't need to start there?
It would be useful. Yeah. Otherwise, the learning curve is a bit high. Even if you don't learn Java, if you've learned C, C++, or have some sort of knowledge about object-oriented programming, you can pick up Apex very quickly.
Makes sense. Luke?
So I guess my route was, from the other spectrum. So I was in the CRM space, working for a consultancy which was primarily focused on Siebel. So I've done a lot of Siebel work and probably spent a lot of time getting infrastructure and servers set up and not actually delivering much value to the business. So about 2008, I think we landed our first Salesforce deal, and we had to quickly get up to speed and implement Salesforce. So a lot of the business facing skills were very much the same. It was still CRM, and the configuration was similar, but it was on a different platform. It was quicker to configure and quicker to develop. So instead of taking a day to add 10 fields on the screen, you could add a field within a matter of seconds and really start showing value to the business straight away. I guess my background outside of that is I had also done a bit of .NET development, so I was able to pick up the skills of Apex, similar to Anoop, from my experience of doing that. I think it changed my career very rapidly because Salesforce was new. There wasn't a lot of people in the ecosystem at that point, and I needed to really help and take things forward for our company. So to be a platinum partner, I also had to take on the path of becoming a certified technical architect. And find that out, and I guess it really accelerated my career because I then was able to take on more opportunities and roles actually leading and delivering the solutions for our clients, and it was actually easier to be more business focused and more of a technical architect because you could rapidly turn things around.
So it is another common route we see is for people who have CRM backgrounds. Obviously, Salesforce is a huge platform and you can develop and wave it, etc. But the core parts of the CRM background are the processes that you're following through sales, service, and marketing. If you've had Dynamics background, if you've had the fun of a Siebel career over the years, then certainly there's a good route to get up and running, and there's lots of value there. I imagine a bunch of people here have also worked with other CRM platforms, even though that's not the extent of it all.
So what is the route actually? Quick show of hands in the audience who's come from more of a Java background or who came from like a CRM background.
The Java's basically these guys.
Java's on the right, is it?
Yeah.
CRM on the left.
CRM stuff. Yeah. Lots and lots of folks. Probably a range of platforms, small and large, etc. Welcome to the future. For now. Cool. Rich?
Yes, I guess my experience is quite similar to Luke, actually, in that my first job out of university was supporting a Siebel system, and again, quite similar to Alex. When I took that job, I didn't really know what Siebel was. I just kind of knew I was interested in CRM, and I wanted a job in that space to get more experience. I think it was the sort of the final project I worked on in that job, where I spent a year working on a project to upgrade Siebel. And this sort of long, arduous process involving rebuilding lots of servers and lots of infrastructure and things. And I'd started hearing a lot about this Salesforce tool and the fact that it just it has an upgrade sort of every 3 times a year, and you don't have to do anything. It just kind of happens in the background. You get all these magical new features. And I thought, I've just spent a year upgrading Siebel so that we can use the newest version of Internet Explorer. And I just thought, the more I found out more about Salesforce, the more I saw, how quick it was to develop and how easy it was to show value, and just how sort of you get your own developer account, jump in there and start building stuff, and just thought that was really powerful. And
what led you into working in some of the third sector clients? I know you've done some consultancy for third sector, and then you've done some implementations with us in the third sector. What do you think? What does Salesforce mean in terms of that world?
Yeah, I just think. Just a general interest in how those organisations are using Salesforce, because I guess in our sort of day-to-day consulting, you see kind of a lot of people using Salesforce for sales, for service, marketing, but there's a lot of people doing a lot of amazing stuff,
really amazing,
incredible stuff in the third sector with the Salesforce. Salesforce generously give away sort of 10 free licenses to these organisations, and they kind of take them and run with them. And I've seen, it's not just your typical sales service, it's kind of membership, volunteering. There's certain organisations using it to track animals that they're looking after. It's just kind of it's really interesting to see how people are using this technology to really sort of empower their organisations. Yeah,
one of the charities we've been working with reaches out to girls to help promote them into STEM careers, and they are using Salesforce to track over kind of a lifetime of school membership and university membership and careers about how their whole journey will go through and where they will end up, whether they will end up in technology or engineering careers or not. So it's a hugely inspirational area. Have you done your story, Alex?
Yeah, I think more or less. Yeah, cool. Yeah. I mean, I think the kind of end user aspect is. I mean, it was interesting because it was as much about learning about business as it was about learning about Salesforce. So I think the kind of the thing that's interesting about that route is you end up getting to know the business in such kind of intense detail, because you end up looking at all the processes and so on, and also all the politics of especially being in a bigger business, and that is kind of useful experience that's very transferable, and you can kind of map it onto other areas. So I feel like it's as much about Salesforce as it is about what businesses are like doing that. But yeah, you obviously. I mean, the other great thing is that because you're kind of driving this tool within the business, which then actually drives the business, you end up being this sort of linchpin person who pretty much everybody comes to for stuff, I guess. I mean, there's probably quite a lot of admins in the room, right, who just get piles of requests, but But on the flip side, you also end up offering people advice, and if you can, you can end up helping people make decisions and so on. So, I think it's a.
That's huge.
Yeah,
I think it's a super. Yeah, hey.
On the back of that note, I don't know if everybody could hear me. I think that we need to start in a one-woman mission. I think that we need to stop calling ourselves Salesforce admins.
Yeah.
I think we're business analysts, and we are key to how the business formalizes and uses its processes and the systems. And admin has a low-level connotation, and I think we are Salesforce business analysts. So I'm starting a one-woman mission to change our name.
I would totally agree with that. I mean, there's loads of terms out there, but a common term we see a bit is business partners. So it's the partnership of IT with the business and business partnerships. So that's one possible route. To your point, Alex, for me, when I spent 5 years owning CRM and BI for a technology company, and that sense of ownership you have, that real sense of I own this, I'm making an impact on the business. The decision I make now will be the decision that is in place in 5 years. We can't get it wrong, because if we get it wrong, we'll get it wrong for a long time, is absolutely invaluable. And the other thing to say is, as you say, how do you get respect for it? And I think terminology is actually one aspect of it, but another area which I'm sure will be touched on by other folks today is, you are this magnet for all the cares and concerns and queries of the organisation. How do you show back through statistics, through metrics, the impact you're having in order to get more resources? So you're continuously sort of behind the curve and arguing to have more resources in so that you can then scale it out and do better. This is a massive area.
Yeah. And I think because you know so much about how the business actually operates as a result of doing that role, you often find yourself in the position of being the person who's actually best placed to make a particular business decision.
That happens a lot. Yeah.
And that's provided you can get that across, it actually puts you in quite a powerful position.
It's quite scary though. Rich and I spent a while doing a commission system. And they were like, how do you want commissions to work? And we're like, no. We are not deciding the commission structure for your salespeople. We are putting in place the commission structure for your salespeople. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. Cool. Where should we go now? How are we doing for time? Cool. How do you look at making career choices or job role choices? How do you choose what next? Just briefly from you guys. How do you make a good decision? Have you made a good decision, Luke?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
I guess it's important in terms of career and what you're going to do work. It's got to be something that you're going to enjoy, that you're going to want to go to and actually you feel passionate about. So I think you need to look at what your interests are and what your abilities, where they lie, and what you'd want to go forward with, and see how a career might map out with that. I guess is the first thing, and then assuming you pick a career in technology, which I hope everyone in the room will do. I had this through at a Salesforce event. You probably need to look at a technology that is probably niche enough, but so that it's got a demand for it, but also is going to be prevalent enough that there's going to be lots of different places you can actually go and implement it. So it kind of gives you the options for a breadth and a length of career in that technology. And also it needs to be a technology that's always innovating and growing. So I think that's why I guess it came across at Salesforce and being in the CRM space, but having now been in Salesforce, I'll start with it because it does actually carry all of those attributes and elements with it. So it is changing, and it is still niche enough that there's demand for it in the market. It's not a commoditized technology like a .NET or a Java.
So two of the things that I look for when I'm evaluating a job role or particular project is growth and impact. So how much can I grow in this role, or how much impact I can have by not just doing what I'm doing as building, designing, but also how much impact that product is going to have on its users. Mm-hmm. So those are the key criteria for me when I'm deciding about my next role or next job. But having said that, I think with now Salesforce is not just a CRM at the moment. It's a platform, it's an app, it's IoT, it's a lot of clouds now. It's not just 2 or 3 clouds. So there is a lot of scope to grow within the Salesforce ecosystem. So everywhere you go, there are a lot of opportunities to innovate on what Salesforce provides you with the tools.
Yeah, so I guess my experience is quite similar. Throughout my career, I've kind of pursued what I think kind of what I've been interested in, really. So the jump from Siebel to Salesforce was, I've worked in one company for sort of 5 years, seen how they use a CRM system. I jumped to consulting now and sort of try and work with a variety of organisations and kind of see how they're all using them quite differently. And also, I guess, in terms of career, that's kind of how I've done things. In terms of picking a job, I think, as you said, it's kind of trying to pick an area where you'll learn something, and also trying to kind of, because Salesforce is constantly innovating, bringing out new features. It's maybe picking a role where you can try out some of those new features. So you were mentioning sort of Wave and the Lightning stuff. So maybe able to pick a project that'll give you some exposure to that. Because I think the best way to learn a lot of this stuff is kind of on the job.
Alex?
Yeah, I'm just very quickly, I think, just kind of ask yourself the question, like, what do I now know more than I really want to know about? And what do I not know enough about? And kind of, so for me it was like, I now know way too much about the specifics of this particular database that this company has, and I can't take it anymore. But I don't really know very much about various other aspects of kind of emerging technology that I'd like to, and that's kind of the basis on which I've made career decisions, I think.
Makes sense. And I think it's probably teaching grandmothers to suck eggs because you're all here doing London's Calling, but certainly in the Salesforce world, more so than any of the places I've worked before, there is a phenomenal network of people. That network of people can be used to find a new role, but it can be used really well to advise you on a good role. So you're looking at a company, you're thinking, is that a good company? Is it a company that's growing? Is it a company that's investing? Or is it a company that's in financial trouble? Certainly the number of people that are sitting in this room and in this whole building that can just provide different perspectives on what a next step is. That's my number one learning in the last 5 years, is this is a very, very open community with people that can help and guide, and I would just be really, really, really assertive and go find and ask, because it's much more open than other places that I've worked. That would be my perspective. Something like that. Cool. And then, if there's we've got a little bit of time for Q&A, but the final thought was really just about skills and keeping on top of skills in this market. Again, the fact that you're here, there's tons of ways to go and connect with people and learn new skills whilst here. My thing that I think is happening in the next few years, in addition to the technology skills that are on display here, is really industry knowledge. So this is about how does a telco company innovate, and people that know deep business processes and architectures and technologies that are very useful in particular industries. So whilst we're all looking for the next technology skill, I do think pairing that with industry knowledge is one of the things that's coming. Any other brief thoughts on hot skills before we wrap up? Because I can see we're probably at time.
I'm very much, my last thought is, I'm very much looking forward to, the innovations happening on the Lightning platform and also IoT, Thunder. I want to see how that grows and, evolves eventually. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Cool. Thanks very much for listening. And if you have any thoughts, do come and chat with anybody at any time. Thank you so much.